Hey guys, I have a card for us today. A simple, pretty simple card. Sort of Bugs Life inspired, but not totally, well, I hope you enjoy this card and like, follow, comment, share all the things. And thanks for letting me teach you how to make a card. All right, have a great day. Hey guys, I wanted to show you my fun little bug and, card, my little ant card. I mean, it's a little bit Bugs Life, but not totally. So a little inspired by, but nothing extreme. It's from the Sweet Bugs stamp set and dies that just came out. Or they're coming out in January, this stamp set. And this is our new packaging for the stamps, which I'm actually kind of loving because they're so small and compact. So the paper we're using comes from this paper. I'm using the mushroom piece, and I think it's called Sweet as a Bug as well, or Sweet Bugs, or Cute as a Bug. Cute as a Bug designer series paper, and it's just such a fun, the stamp set is called Sweet Bugs, and the paper is called Cute as a Bug. The dies are also called Sweet Bugs. Anyway, I just think this paper is really, really cute and adorable. I think that there's lots of great pieces in here. Look, they've got butterflies. They've got just such fun paper in here. And so I'll have to come up with some good stuff. Like this is very Bugs Life, this one here. So we've got our basic layers. And the paper is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then this layer is crushed curry. And this is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and this is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I scored it at 5 1/2. So we've just got our basic layers, and I'm just going to get us started and get going. I wanted to keep this card simple. One, because I was having to do it with a bunch of friends, and I just thought, this would be a simple one. I kind of left it to the last minute, I'll be honest. I could have done a better design job. But then, sometimes it's also nice to keep things simple, which I'm reminding myself of in these last few days of the year here, because my favorite craft in the last month was this craft that I did yesterday. And all I did was put paper and punch the pins in. And I thought, Jennifer, keep it simple. Keep it simple. So that's what I'm trying to remember, So this little scrap piece is I had like, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch left. And, this little chunk of paper left. And you almost can't really do anything with the chunk that small. So what I tend to do is I tend to make it a little strip and then put it on the inside of my card. And you'll see that on most of my cards. If you go to my Whatnot, I'll have this card and other cards for sale at various times. Depending on when you see this video, hopefully you will see this in my next Whatnot, this card. I just think it's a fun, sweet card. And a lot of my stuff just, it's real simple. So, but then you've got the really elaborate stuff that I do with the princess stuff. So it's hit or miss. So, all right. So what I did was I wanted to take just the ants. I knew a lot of people were going to use the ladybug. I knew a lot of people at my gathering were going to use this cute ladybug with the book and probably the bee. I just knew that some of these other bugs were going to be more popular than maybe the ants, or, or even the caterpillar would be maybe popular. But so I was trying to do something that I could stamp quickly, would also still have an impact, but not necessarily have to color the whole thing. The problem with the ladybug here is I'm going to have to stamp it, then I'm going to have to color her wings, then color the book. And it's not that I mind that. The problem is when I'm doing it with a big group of people, it makes this card harder to do because there's all these extra steps that have to be done in order for everyone to finish my card. And I just didn't really want that personally. Oh, and this die, this label is from the Nested labels die, and which is still current. And so, and I just thought, you know, and this narrow label is kind of hard to use unless you use it for, you know, specific wording. And I thought, you know, let me just use this narrow label for something non-traditional, which is this, you know, so that's what I did. And then my only coloring is I'm using Daffodil Delight. Let's let that dry a second because I want to make sure that's nice and dry before I color it, because we're using the regular markers this time. And then the label is just a simple piece of green. This is 2.5 by 3/4 inch. Yeah, I think this is only 3/4 of an inch wide. I think yeah, 3/4 of an inch. So it's just a tiny label. But again, I'm only using 1 ink pad and 2 little markers, and you're barely even coloring with those markers. But again, I wanted to just keep it real simple, real quick. All right, and I'm stamping the Spread Joy. Okay, perfect. Came out just right. And I just thought that was a very simple, very easy card. We'll just let that dry a little. It doesn't take long for the ink to dry, but you know, because I'm going to use the marker on top, and then I'm just going to put a little glue on the back of our label, and I'm putting it down at the bottom here. So 2.5 inches by 3 3/4 inch. And so we'll just go ahead and we'll glue that down. And let's do a little quick color. So I'm using the orange, or the Old Olive for the flag. I tried some different greens out and none of them looked right. And I really wanted that little Old Olive label. I just thought it was a good color to match with the Poppy Parade. Oh, so this is Poppy Parade and Crushed Curry. I think I mentioned the yellow, but this is not red. This is Poppy Parade, because this paper is Poppy Parade. Poppy Parade, I always like to say, is a fake red. It wants to be red, but it's kind of orange, you know? It's almost a coral, which can be annoying because sometimes I just need a red, or I'm wanting something to be red, but Poppy Parade is on the, you know, it's just something that I've noticed when they use it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to match it with red, because red is red. Like here's a red, just a piece of red, what's it called? This is a little business card holder that I use for my crafting. And this is red, but this is obviously not red. And let me see if I have my cardstock here. Ah, here we go. I do have it handy. There we go. So here's red. So you can see the difference between real red and Poppy Parade. It has quite a bit more orange, quite a bit more, I think, yellow in it to make it orange, and white to make it just a lighter. But it's not pink, you know, it's just fake. I always say it's a fake red because it's not red and it's not orange. And so I always say it's like a poser so, because it's not really what I want it to be. And so, all right, we're going to go ahead and just pop some dimensionals on the back of this. And then that's the end of our card. It was really that simple. And let's center this. But you know, the brown, stamping the brown, which was I was going to tell you, but I got distracted. Stamping it in brown instead of black adds a tiny bit of color, but it's not as harsh. It looks like I got a little bit of ink or something on the edge of that label, but it's fine. I'm not worried. I might need to cover that up with something. So what I'm gonna, you know, since I got a little marking on there, you know what I'm gonna do? I'll grab some of these muted dots, which I was going to try out. But, you know, see, I mean, sometimes simplicity is great. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these dots. So I don't know if I'll use these or the yellow or even the, I almost think the peach, because the yellow doesn't really match. And this green is like a little too green. I actually think this petal pink is the winner, surprisingly. I don't like petal pink, which is why I have so many of those. So let me grab my tweezers here. And I'm going to put a label, just a little dot here and a dot there and a dot over here. Don't want it to be too even. Yeah. There we go. 3. There we go. So I covered up the little, I had a little mark, I think from my finger maybe, or, you know, from the pen or something, but I got a little mark on there. So all I did was cover it up with a little embellishment, and that adds a little something, you know. It's not necessary. I think the card was good even without it, you know, just very simple, very clean. But that little bit of brown, that little bit of pecan pie ink changes it from being black, you know, to almost like I did color it, you know, almost like I did color it by hand. But coloring it by hand, you know, adds another layer of complexity and makes it just not more difficult, just one more step, you know, in the process. So that was our card. That's it. That is our basic card. That's it. That's the deal. Nothing fancy. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have an excellent day, and make sure you know, like, comment, subscribe, all the things. I really appreciate you. And I will see you soon. All right. Bye.